Hey everybody, Blaketos84 here. We're going to do a review of Slow and Steady. We'll start off, I'll read this off to you guys, go on a little bit about it, and we'll cover some of the cards that you can run with this. So, Slow and Steady, mine's at tier 3. While Deadeye is active, you take much less damage and headshots do not kill you outright. Taking damage will drain Deadeye, and you cannot run or sprint. So when this game first came out, Slow and Steady was the top card. Painted Black, Slippery Bastard, at the beginning, they just were not used. It was all about Slow and Steady. If you went into Showdown, you would basically be fighting against guys that were just popping potions to get their Deadeye up all the way, and they would pop in Slow and Steady, and they would just shoot you down. You just would not be able to do anything. So when it's maxed out, it says you take much less damage. So I'm sure the 3 tiers would be you take less damage, a little less damage, you take less damage to much less damage, and headshots do not kill you outright. So, you know, if you're in Deadeye with this card, you could take a lot of shots, including headshots, and it's not going to necessarily kill you off a headshot right off the bat. So if you use that with the Never Without One Hatter card, it made you pretty hard to kill, and then you're taking less damage, as the card says. So this was nerfed, I believe, with the spring update. They kind of brought it back down to life, so made some of the other cards a little bit better. I still use this card a lot because I'm more of a distance type of guy. I'm not I use Slippery Bastard in some quick games or some scenarios. I switch my cards up, but generally riding, you'll see me with Slow and Steady still to this day. Just something, you know, I've always used. I like the card. So when I have Slow and Steady, some of the other cards that I would go with, traditionally I would use this was my Showdown setup. It's not mine. I got it from a buddy, of course. But this was their setup. They would run Eye for an Eye. Kill an enemy with a headshot restores a lot of Deadeye. I would also go with Unblinking Eye. Your Deadeye and Eagle Eye drain slower. And then I would go Never Without One. Your hat will block one headshot, then fall off. So, you know, I did a lot of Showdown Large at the time when I would run this setup, and this was kind of the main setup you would see most of the people using. So you could go in Slow and Steady and not lose your Deadeye as fast with the Unblinking Eye. And then, you know, a lot of the kills I got were from headshots. I wasn't doing a lot of body shots or close shotgun or, you know, chopping people with the axe or anything, or strangling people. And then I always wore the hat for the extra layer of protection. So this was a setup that I would use with this. So, you know, that's the main setup. I would say another setup to run with this would probably be Peak Condition's a good card right now. And probably Winning Streak, just because you could do more damage with these 2 cards. So you're taking less damage, and a headshot's not going to kill you right away, right? Or kill you outright. I'm sorry, outright is the verbiage. So if I'm getting in a shootout and you have a repeater and I have a repeater, I'm taking less damage in Deadeye using this card. But now if I'm using Peak Condition, I'm dealing more damage, and if I'm hitting you consecutively with a Winning Streak, I do much more damage every shot. So, you know, you could kind of probably still use the Never Without One or the Unblinking Eye. Strange Medicine to help you regain some health, or maybe come back stronger. You know, that's kind of what I would use if I was going with this setup. Let's see. But when you're in this setup, you definitely want to, you know, stay in Deadeye, and that's the thing, is to just stay in there. And you probably want to hat. The downside to this card is you can't run. you can't move fast. So you can dive and you could jump and you can walk, but you can't sprint like you could do with a lot of the other cards. You could still do all those functions, but because you're taking that much less damage and you're not getting killed outright from a headshot, they make it where you cannot run or sprint. So you know, you're in a tough spot. If you're caught out in the open, you got to keep moving. So whatever cards you're going to play with this, you definitely want that to go with it. So this is Blaketos84, and this is my review of Slow and Steady.